Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, we join you from the show floor at the Modern Day Marine Conference in Washington, D.C. We talk to Marine leaders about the future of the Corps and see new gear that might end up on your team. We have a conversation with the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps about retaining talent and more. Plus, we talk to the makers of the Switchblade Loitering munition, which has entered the fight in Ukraine with a bang. Plus, we hear directly from Marines about gear that they can't live without. We have all that coming up for you on today's episode. It's the latest in news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. Modern Day Marine is the premier event that brings the Marine Corps and industry together. It historically has been held in Quantico, Virginia, but this year it moved up the road to Washington, D.C. The show featured a lot of cutting-edge technology, and our own Daniel Woolfolk shows you systems that you might soon see.
Modern Day Marine. If you've ever been to it, you've gone to Quantico, Virginia. The conference is usually held in a tent, and very often, because it rains, right next to a mud pit. This year, it's in Washington, D.C. at the Convention Center. There's a lot to see, so let's get started. GM Defense has some vehicles that Marines might be interested in. This is the heavy gun carrier. It's based off the Chevy Colorado ZR2, and this one to my right, it's based off the Chevy Silverado. Now, 90% of the parts in these vehicles are commercially made. They're for commercial vehicles, and they've been adapted for the military. And speaking of those parts, those have been tested out in the racing community.
We brought our vehicles to Modern Day Marine to demonstrate our ability to build light, agile, tactical vehicles for the expeditionary mission, and we base it on commercial products so we can do it very quickly. We built this vehicle in 120 days after contract award, so that's our mission, bring commercial capability to the warfighter at the speed of relevance.
We just saw trucks on the ground, but what do we have at sea at a Modern Day Marine? Well, the Whiskey Project has this really interesting craft that was developed by an Australian Navy SEAL. Let's climb aboard and talk to him.
So it's been designed to be a blue water to brown water capability. I've witnessed in the past that we've had to have multiple different craft to operate in different maritime domains, but we've tried to minimise the amount of craft required to achieve as many maritime mission sets as possible. So we've developed this craft around operating from blue water into the brown and back out again.
Now let's go up in the air with Marine Special Operations. They have a lot of unmanned aerial vehicles available to them. Something long range like this one goes 50 kilometers. That's the Stalker. And the Fleer's Black Hornet, this could be used to clear, say, a house or something like that. Another one here is the Hero. This is a loitering munition that can be shot up in the air, and it'll shoot itself onto a target. We're at Teledyne FLIR, which is showcasing the Stormcaster DX. It's a laser designator that's mounted on an unmanned aerial system.
Yeah, the value proposition of Stormcaster DX is the ability to remotely lace targets far away from your position so you're not giving up your location. But you can also use this to call in naval gunfire, precision artillery, precision mortars, or even air-launched effects.
And I'm right next to the Anduril underwater autonomous vehicle. This is one of the many pieces of technology at Modern Day Marine. You can read about a lot more of that and news coming out of this show at MarineCorpsTimes.com.
Talent retention is a major issue across the services, and it's one that the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps has been taking on full steam. We spoke to him about why Marines are getting out and how he plans to keep them in. So the Marine Corps is looking to retain and mature its force. Why and how do you plan to do that?
Not unusual, I have to be honest with you. Retaining and maturing the force, not a new concept, quite frankly. I think what I would offer as an explanation of why it's a big deal now is, number one, as we see the Commandant. And this isn't new to this Commandant. We've always invested a great deal in how we train and educate Marines. What we have not had a necessity to do or a calling to do is retain more of that investment. What we're really talking about is that first term Marine, at the end of the first contract. You know, our current model lets go intentionally of about 75% of who we recruited just 4 years ago. And that model's been sustainable over time. It's probably still sustainable now. The difference right now is how much more investment that there is in that Marine, officer or enlisted, quite frankly. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we give Marines the opportunity who want, number one, to stay in the Marine Corps, number two, who have the talent and the skills to succeed and continue to succeed in the Marine Corps, and then develop a more mature force. What does that mean? Rather than retrain a whole group of new Marines, you keep more of the ones you've trained, then you start to retrain, re-educate, advance those skills, get more and more to the perfection of it is in the art of war. What's the advantage? The advantage is that you have a group of Marines now that have got the reps and sets, who are now capable of taking on the responsibilities the Commandant talked about in his planning guidance of, you know, pushing those authorities down to the lowest level possible. That can only be done through experience, and experience is a time factor. It's an individual, are you capable factor, but really in terms of maturing the force, it's about retaining our Marines. How do you go about doing that? I think there's a follow-on question, right? How do you go about that? Number one, in order to stay in the Marine Corps, you got first want to be a Marine. The number one incentive for recruiters to have someone join the Marine Corps is, do you want to be a Marine? The number one incentive to stay in the Marine Corps is, do you want to be a Marine? That's number one. Secondly, it's a whole list of other things, and we can talk about them in a subsequent question, but the onus on retaining the force and why, and what's the incentive to do so, is to stay a United States Marine.
So what are some of the roadblocks that you're seeing, or why are Marines getting out?
It varies, quite frankly. First and foremost, the Marine Corps does not miss its retention mission. We may need to adjust of what pay grade, rank, what experience or MOS, skill, in order to meet ultimately our end strength. That's a requirement, congressionally reportable. The roadblocks are varied, but there are some consistencies. Number one on the list is probably quality of life. What does that mean? Quality of life means exactly what it is. You know, the majority of the force is single, the majority of the force lives in the barracks, and if the quality of our living conditions isn't where the Marines want it to be, arguably where I think it should be, then what's the option? Let me live off the installation. If we can't do that, we got to make a choice. The better question is, well, how come we're not pushing that a little harder as far as how we can, you know, maybe work on that? Everything is driven by resources. Everything is driven by resources. I think what you've seen in the Commandant's planning here the last couple of years, and as we go into the future with how we request our resources, there's a heavy emphasis on that quality of life. I'm speaking about barracks in particular, but it's any number of things I can bring up in follow-on questions. But I'd start there. Quality of food in our chow halls, dining facilities. It's a whole different list of questions. Command climate comes up a lot, but what does command climate mean? Command climate does not mean the commander and the senior, you know, leaders of the organization. Usually it's, if you're a corporal, it's the sergeant, it's the lieutenant. Not that they're poor quality, but young people leading young people, you asked about maturing the force, you get a dynamic there. Maturing the leadership, right, is one of the reasons why you would want to mature the force. That gets after that command climate thing. And lastly, I gotta be honest with you, there's always families involved. There's a kind of a saying, you recruit a Marine, you retain a family. How we support our families is utmost importance. The Commandant's wife and my wife, who's a retired Marine, has been a spouse, both of them obviously are spouses, have done a great job over the last couple of years really gleaning from across the force where our families, you know, desires are to, hey, there's us too, not just the Marine. A lot's been learned there. Our Marine and family programs are working constantly to try to get after those niche things that will help our families want to stay in the Marine Corps, which ultimately impacts the Marine's decision to stay. I would say there's probably a couple of top 3 or 4.
What are some specifics on the family aspect? What are you guys seeing? Why are families getting out or staying in the Marine Corps?
Some of the same reasons the Marines are. There's a little bit of there's stability challenges. And I'll be honest, the Marine Corps is unique There's more to being the most ready when nation's least ready and always forward deployable, right? I mean, 180,000, 1/6 of the Marine Corps, 1/6 of the entire force, right, is forward. I usually make an analogy. There's 4/3 to the Marine Corps. 1/3 deployed, 1/3 just got back, 1/3 getting ready to go, and the other third's in the supporting establishment, getting ready to get orders to one of those 3 organizations. That's the nature of the Marine Corps and how the Marine Corps is required to operate. So stability becomes a challenge. I think the number one thing we can do for our families is find those places where we can create stability, right? I'm the wrong example, but every one of my children has gone to more than one high school. Every one of them. 2 more in the house. One's just finishing up. She is on her 4th high school in the last 4 years. Marine Corps required us as a family to do something, but that's synonymous across the force. If you can create stability in that family, the benefits to the family, spouse's occupation, right, their employment, huge. Stability to the Marine Corps in the organization, the cohesion of the unit is built through stability. There are times where that's impossible. Promotion and being recognized for your performance is a great thing in the Marine Corps. That often requires us to move to a place where your rank and experience is needed, right? That's a challenge to cohesion and stability. But that's one of the things we do for our families is try to find stability.
When we come back, more from the Modern Day Marine Conference in Washington, D.C. Welcome back. The United States has provided Ukraine $2 billion in aid since the beginning of the Biden administration, and the majority of that has been since the start of the country's war with Russia. In that aid packet are Switchblades made by AeroVironment. Switchblades aren't drones, they're loitering munitions, which means they have explosive charges and cameras so they can scout ahead and then kamikaze themselves onto an enemy weapon system. We caught up with the makers of the Switchblade at Modern Day Marine.
Charlie, AeroVironment has been a busy company for a little bit, but very recently with the news in Ukraine, Switchblades getting sent over to Ukraine, you must have gotten from very busy to extremely busy. What has the past month or two been like for you?
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's been very exciting, a lot of work. We've been working long hours to get our equipment overseas into the fight so that we can help the Ukrainians defend their country against the invasion from Russia. So we have continued to produce at a higher volume our Switchblade missiles, our Puma unmanned aircraft systems. We've also been shipping our Quantix Recon aircraft systems overseas and into the fight. And we continue to improve the rapidity of our systems, our subsystems coming through the production process. So we're pushing out to all of our vendors to speed up and get us all the equipment we need to produce more and more of our products. So it's an exciting time. We are focused on supporting the Ukraine. We are very dedicated to helping them win, and our technologies are making a difference on the battlefield.
Are you able to talk numbers in terms of how many are being shipped over?
I like to use the U.S. government to be the voice of how many are being shipped over. Hundreds of our missiles are being shipped into the fight, and they're at different stages of being delivered, but that's all being managed by the U.S. government.
Can you tell me a little bit about the demand? I'm sure manufacturing has really changed a little bit, and to have high demand in a time right now when there are supply chain issues, has that affected you at all?
Yeah, sure. It's a critical time in the electronics industry right now that there are supply chain issues for subcomponents on printed circuit boards, the chips that are used in electronics. Throughout all industry are in huge demand. If you were to buy a truck right now or a car, you're going to have to wait months likely to take delivery of that platform that you may have expected a week or two a couple years ago. So in that environment, we are increasing our production. So we, like other defense companies and other companies not in the defense world, are having to work through the availability of all of those components. And we're working with our partners, and we're getting help even from the U.S. government to find hard-to-find parts, and we're bringing those together to meet the delivery schedules that we've signed up for.
And we are in front of the Switchblade S300, I believe?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about this one in particular, which I think is the original Switchblade?
So we first developed the Switchblade 300. This is a model of a 300 for the trade show. We have other representation of the 300 in the booth for this show, but it's a small, several pound missile system that you can carry in your backpack. We developed it about 10 years ago, and Switchblade has continued to evolve. The 300 has had several instances of improvements to its capabilities over those years. So it's a very modern missile system today, which is great. And over the last few years, we've developed the Switchblade 600. So the 600 goes further. It carries a bigger punch. It carries the warhead of a Javelin missile, flying 10 times the range of a Javelin missile. So it's not a competitor to Javelin. They are brothers and sisters in this fight. It all depends on how far away from the forward line of the troops we're able to strike and take out targets. So while the Javelin is hitting targets closer to the friendly forces, we're taking out the second and third echelons with our longer range missiles.
And the S600 is made for anti-tank warfare.
It is, sir. It's meant for destroying armored vehicles.
And you also mentioned the Puma, and can you tell us a little bit about that vehicle?
Yeah, so the Puma is the Group 1 UAS. All of our U.S. military forces use Puma, so some of your audience are going to be very familiar with Puma. We also make Raven and Wasp, and they will be familiar with those systems as well. So Puma is a very nice ISR aircraft system that can go long range out in front of a small unit. It's usually a brigade level asset. It can go long range, do its detections at long range. But now, with Switchblades in the fight, the Puma and the Switchblade can actually work together to help pass target data to the Switchblade.
And something kind of new in warfare is loitering munitions, where this is a munition that flies and eventually flies into the target, right? Governments all over the world are probably pretty interested in this. What are they looking at in terms of loitering munitions? What are they asking for?
You know, we're at a point here in history that's revolutionary. What's happening on the battlefield, really since Azerbaijan, a couple of years ago, has really led to the predominance of the UAS being a fighting platform and loitering munitions being fighting platforms in the modern heavy battlefield. So the tank that used to be the king of the battlefield is now playing second to missile systems that didn't exist a couple of years ago, being dropped by or directed by unmanned aircraft. So I like to think of the Switchblades, they're a missile system as opposed to an ISR aircraft. Yes, they fly. Yes, they're flown by a human. The human picks his target, so there's nothing autonomous there. However, it's a missile. As you stated, it does not come back. Like every other missile made, it's on a one-way trip, and its mission is to destroy targets at the other end. But because it can loiter, the operator can now spend time to very carefully select the targets that they want to attack. And then when they lock on, they go after that target and they destroy the target.
You mentioned that these are on a one-way trip. What if they lose the target, or they lose interest in a target, or want to go to a different one? Does it have to blow up?
No, you can wave off the Switchblade as you're in the final approach. You can decide, once you target lock, to break your target lock and fly away and get altitude again and make a new decision on whether or not you want to strike that target or another target. So it's a feature that's unique to our design, and it allows the human to continue to be in control, to include deciding not to attack.
And what kind of loiter time do the 300 and the 600 have?
It all depends upon the range of the shot, right? So these are electric. They have batteries that give them a certain range. So if you take the 600, if I were flying 40 kilometers, I could loiter for 40 minutes. So 40 kilometers, by the way, is 10 times the Javelin's range. If I wanted to fly further than that, and I could fly out to 100 kilometers, my loiter time gets smaller and smaller.
Have you gotten other governments interested in the loitering munitions?
Many governments are interested in loitering munitions right now, primarily because they see what the effect is on the battlefield, and they feel threatened by what's happening in Eastern Europe. So many NATO nations, as an example, are interested in these types of capabilities. And then other countries that are watching the NATO nations are also interested to have similar kind of capabilities. So again, it's a revolutionary time for some very important capabilities that are really changing the game on the modern battlefield.
Are you taking feedback directly from the battlefield to, say, make the S900 someday or something?
We look forward to that in the future. We're not in comms with the battlefield, but one day we do look forward to those after-action reviews so that we can continue to evolve our capabilities to protect small units on the battlefield.
Mr. Dean, thanks for having us over.
All right, thank you, Daniel.
When we come back, the latest from our personal finance expert on IRA contributions. Welcome back. On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack talks about how much you can contribute each year to your IRA.
IRAs, or individual retirement accounts, are fantastic savings options that provide tax advantages for retirement savings. There are two types of IRAs, traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs. But regardless of which one you choose, the IRS limits how much money you can contribute to these accounts yearly. The maximum amount you can contribute to any type of IRA this year is $6,000. However, if you're older than 50, you can add an extra $1,000 per year, giving you the opportunity to save a little extra for retirement. Whether or not you're eligible to contribute the maximum amount depends on your household income and your filing status. For example, you must make less than $129,000 annually to contribute the maximum $6,000 or $7,000 to an IRA. And the more money you make, the lower your maximum contribution can be. For more information on specific income restrictions when it comes to your IRA, visit irs.gov and talk to someone at your bank or credit union for help if you need it. And more importantly, make the most of your IRA and your retirement.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more of our coverage, be sure to head on over to Army, Navy, Air Force, and MarineCorpsTimes.com and DefenseNews.com for the latest. And to wake up to headlines from across the military and defense spaces every weekday, sign up for our Early Bird Brief. And make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Marines love their gear. See how much after the break. Welcome back. Marines love their gear. But what if you were stuck on an island with just one item? That's something we asked Marines on the show floor of the Modern Day Marine Conference. Here's what they said.
Marines love their gear. They have a lot of it, a lot to choose from, but we really want to know, if they were stuck on a deserted island, what one piece of gear would they take with them?
Probably be a radio.
And for obvious reasons, to call for help?
Yep, probably like a 163 or probably a 163.
Why a 163?
It seems to be the best radio, I would say. Battery life I've seen on it's pretty good compared to the other radios. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I would get with.
Probably anything that helps me like create a food source in any way. Or actually, you know those like those things that like you like use a straw, the straws that like filter out like salt water and stuff like that.
That's a good one.
That's what I'd take.
So you can drink water all day long?
Yes, sir, and never have to thirst.
And yourself?
As many MREs as I could get.
Oh, that's pretty good. Are you regretting your decision?
No, because you can survive very long. You get very tired without hydration.
A Leatherman.
Why is that?
It's the world's most versatile tool.
What would you do with it?
Survive.
So it'll probably help you get food, maybe make a
Get
craft?
food, help me hunt, help me build. Help me survive.
A knife.
Which kind of knife?
I don't know, but it'd be a knife.
Something straight out of the store, or do you think something that's standard issue?
Well, it depends how I got stranded, right? So, yeah.
So any knife you got there with?
Any knife. Yep. Knife's probably the most valuable tool.
I want the entire backpack. I want it all because the reality is we're gonna make it work. Whatever piece of gear I have and I'm wearing, it's going to be used. It's going to be utilized for survival because that's what we were taught.
And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more coverage. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.